2026 just keeps pumping out banger after banger after banger. All right, everybody. Finally, me, Radio Slayer, are going to give you our review for Spider-Man Brand New Day. This, I think, is one of the movies we've both been waiting for quite a while. I know since the last video I did with Radio Slay, what were we even talking about the last Marvel? Was it
Daredevil.
Daredevil?
Yeah.
Yeah, been a while since we got together, got to review some Marvel content, and boy, the wait was worth it. It felt like Christmas in July, getting to watch Spider-Man Brand New Day. Our plot is what happened from the previous film, No Way Home. Peter's having to deal with the wish where everybody forgot that he is Spider-Man, so Doctor Strange could fix the multiverse and get everybody back to where they got to go. And now we have, I want to say it's like a coming of age story for Peter. We get to explore a Peter that is going through and growing up, having to live with his decision. And in that decision, we get, I have to just say right off the back, some of Tom Holland's best acting I've seen. Maybe his best acting to date. Definitely in these Spider Man films. So, Radio, we're going to go ahead and start with our hidden treasures section. Go ahead and lead us off.
I'll kind of pick up where you left off there, and that's with Spider-Man, Peter Parker. I think it was awesome to see this part of Spider-Man's life where he's coming off of, like you said, that the spell was cast as though everybody forgot who Peter Parker was. He's wrestling around with that. He's at that college age, right? Like we've all been there. Many of us have been there where we graduated high school, going into college. This is a really big time in our lives where we start maturing. So he's kind of going through that, even though he's not in college, he's at that age where he's also going through that maturity process. And obviously wrestling around with the emotions, the fact that MJ doesn't remember him anymore, and Ned doesn't remember anymore, and dealing with the death, still dealing with the death of his aunt. Trying to acclimate to this new life he has. So it's just really awesome to see him go through that process of figuring all that stuff out while he's like in his early 20s.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was actually going to be one of my parts, like kind of stemming off of what you're saying. Like, I think this is why Spider-Man is beloved by so many people because there are so many different aspects. Whatever you are in life, you can just kind of connect with the character and be like, I've gone through that. And what Peter's going through now, going into college, and in the trailers they showed us and talked about, Spider goes through many life cycles, and they're now saying he's like a teenager Spider and all this stuff. So I thought that was very cool. And the way Tom Holland portrays once he starts getting depressed, especially when he sees MJ and Ned at the apartment and he sees that MJ has what looks like a boyfriend because they kiss. And there's this scene where he is swinging through the city, no Spider Man costume on, and it starts raining, and it was just done fantastically. Tom Holland, there is some pretty deep themes that are talked about in this movie and shown, and how being isolated is bad for somebody, and the mental health and the mental toll it takes on your mental health. I was very impressed with it. It did a great job of feeling like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 to me, and that is my favorite Spider-Man film. And this one, there's a lot of stuff that you can see that they took from that movie that Sam Raimi filmed, and they brought it over to this. And the way that we have such character development with Tom Holland it's awesome. And I also think too it's really cool just us being as movie fans and watching this iteration of Spider-Man in the MCU, being able to see Tom Holland from his first movie up until now. Like, we've grown up with Tom Holland. So it's a very cool way to see and just see how him and the whole cast is growing up together. We're growing along with these characters and seeing them improve their craft. And yeah, just hand claps all around. I am really happy that they went the route they did with the character development, because Tom Holland's Spider-Man, for the films we've got, he's either in space fighting like a gigantic threat, or he's just dealing with something where it's so almost over the top. We never really got character development with Tom Holland. It was always he was dealing with a crazy circumstance, Iron Man stepping in to help him, teach him all this stuff. And this one, its sole focus is on Tom Holland and Peter Parker's character, and I really enjoyed that. My first thing to go off of that was at the very beginning. I knew I was in for a treat because the Marvel opening sequence with the Marvel and the theme song going across, and they just kept it all Spider-Man, all Peter Parker because nobody remembers him. I thought that was just a brilliant way to get you invested back into the MCU, get you immersed in New York now, what's happening. I thought it was really cool, and I noticed that right off the start when I was in the movie. I was like, that was really cool.
Yeah, no, that I noticed that right off the bat as well. I was like, I was waiting for all, the traditional, all different Marvel characters, like Black Panther, Iron Man, Captain America. But no, it was all Peter Parker. It was pretty cool. It was really cool to see for sure. Yeah, one of the other things I was really pleasantly surprised. Yeah, we all remember watching the trailer when it came out, and one of the first things we saw in the trailer was the Punisher, and we all got excited. Oh, Frank Castle's in it. This is going to be awesome. And honestly, I thought that because we saw him, we were going to get like 2 minutes of Punisher. And then that would have been that. But I was pleasantly surprised. We got a lot of Punisher. He was actually one of the main parts of the plot. He was a main character there, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a good mix with him working with Spider-Man throughout the film. And it was the traditional Frank Castle. I mean, like he's out there, he's violent, he's swearing, he has his attitude and everything. I know we got a little bit of a funny moment when he was put on the spider mask at the end. It was grunting. I gotta laugh out of that, but.
That I was
Uh,
not expecting that at all. I was like, that was great. That was one of my favorite scenes in the
Yeah.
whole movie.
But I was really happy that we got a good dose of Punisher. That it wasn't just some, oh, let's pull people in the theater, and then he was in it just for that chase scene. I was really happy to see him. Big part of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I too thought that he wasn't going to be in it as much. I thought I actually thought when I saw the trailer and they came out with Punisher, One Last Kill, I was like, oh, this is going to make up for the lack of Punisher probably in the Spider-Man film. So they want to give fans something. But no, Frank Castle's in it quite a bit. And man, him and Tom Holland, they just mesh so well. I mean, even in the Odyssey, they mesh together great. I just found this out today, just seeing on social media. Tom Holland's audition for Spider-Man. He does a backflip and then he acts like he's shooting webs and somebody throws a boot to him to catch like he's webbing up a shoe and bringing it to himself. It was John Bernthal was actually the one filming it and threw the boot to him. So those guys have a real life relationship and it translates so well on screen. The part with the Hulk and Frank coming to fight the Hulk and Spider-Man's like, "Why are you here? This is above your pay grade." And then a few moments later, Frank is like, "I'll go find Jean," and Tom's like, Frank, do you not just want to fight the Hulk? It was hilarious. They did everything so well playing off one another, and the dynamic between them was great. My next part is another basic one, but again, I love the suit in this movie. I thought they did a great job with the suit. I can tell if you look at the details of the suit, because the suits in this movie, I would almost say more so than Peter Parker himself, which was cool. You never really had that before. We've always had Peter's dealing with his life stuff, and then Spider-Man always seems to be like his alter ego. When this one feels more like he's embraced his role as Spider-Man, and Peter Parker is now his alter ego because he's married to the job because nobody remembers him. All he has is his work. And you can look at the details in the suit and you can see like the back spider logo kind of looks very reminiscent to Andrew Garfield's spider. It's like more elongated spider. And then the suit itself, like the web lines on it, it's not to the point where it's like Sam Raimi's Ray Silver, but there's like little textures on the suit. You notice it's like, hey, it looks like an homage to the Raimi suit. Thought that was cool. And then going back to Tom Holland, I have forever been a Toby fan, and he was my favorite Spider-Man. That's my Spider-Man. I gotta say, after what I watched going through this movie, Tom Holland has become my favorite Spider-Man. I think he is the best representation of the character through and through, both Peter Parker and Spider-Man in this movie. He's constantly looking for the better in people. That's what Spider Man does. He does a great job showing his human side and what he's struggling with. Like, he's a broke high schooler, but in this movie, he doesn't really look broke, even though he's trying to look broke because he has this technology in this attic where he makes all this cool stuff. He does a great job of being awkward, doesn't know how to handle all social situations. He just is a good person through and through, and Tom Holland does a great job doing that. And I can't give enough flowers to the guy for what he did in this. And Zendaya, being his real wife in the world, their chemistry in this movie it's the best it's been in any of the movies. And there's one scene in particular where Tom thinks that MJ is remembering him, but it's actually Jean Grey possessing her. And my jaw dropped to the floor when Jean revealed that it was her. They do the old Sam Raimi pull the mask up, kiss. Peter thinks MJ remembers him because of the kiss and everything. And man, what a powerful scene, jaw dropping, and their acting in these scenes were just fantastic.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Because you got to think when they have these type of movies, and there's many out there where you have your character, but then whether it's body switching or possessing, they almost have to play a completely different character. So that you got to give credit to the actors and actresses that that got possessed by Jean Grey in this film, that they're playing their regular character, and all of a sudden they have to be Jean Grey basically, and acting totally different. So they're playing like two characters in one, which is credit to all of them for doing that for sure. Um, one of the cool things I thought about this film, I don't know if you felt the same way. I mean, the storyline in general was great. I almost felt like I was watching two different movies. There was like movie one was, Spider-Man obviously helping to find out what this mystery, you know, body leaping, jumping thing is, what was going on. And then it led obviously to the capture of Jean Grey, and then he's sitting back with MJ and Ned building Legos, and it felt like the movie was over. And then you find out that, wait a minute, there's more to this story, and it kind of kicked off movie two, if you would. And then you got start to see, him investigating more. Okay, what's really going on here? And then you get to see the back half of that part. So I thought that was actually kind of cool, where you get kind of two different storylines within the main storyline itself.
I liked it a lot too. I agree with you. It did kind of feel two separate movies. And to me, it kind of is like how the movie's theme and the plot of the movie was. Like the first half, it was all Peter being focused on his work as Spider-Man. And so he was kind of blinded by damage control, not being able to see, them through and through what they actually are. And then when he goes and figures out what's going on with Jean, yeah, it did feel like two different movies. I did like that. I felt like it kind of helped with keeping you engaged because this is a longer film. We're like what looking at like 2.5 hours, so it helped keep you on the edge of your seat. And that scene with Ned and then building Legos and talking movie quotes and everything, it was a tearjerker. I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for old Pete at that part. And then MJ did the drawing with them. And I don't know if you noticed, it was the homecoming suit that he was wearing in that drawing. So a little bit of an Easter egg. I think our girl MJ is gonna have her memories, restored because Jean Grey. Have you seen the theory on this?
I thought about it myself, but yeah, I've read some things after I watched the movie, and of course
It's
you always
very
want to dive into
cool.
the Easter eggs and such.
So for
So.
those who don't know, as you know, we're talking spoilers, so let's get into some of the theories. So basically, so when Jean has her massive power explosion and has like a kilometer of New York frozen, we have a scene where MJ and Ned are caught in it. MJ is crying while she's being frozen, and upon doing some research on Jean Grey, because knew she had a bunch of powers. I knew she was a very powerful mutant. I didn't realize how far the extent of her powers went without the Phoenix. She has the power to restore memory. So a lot of speculation that during that scene, MJ's regaining her memories about Peter. And this is very powerful in this scene because the scene after we yeah, might have my timeline messed up, but anyways, MJ finds this letter that Peter wrote to talk and explain about everything that happened, so they can try to have a relationship again. It's a very heartfelt scene where she's like, "I don't know who you are, I don't love you," and it's soul crushing. But then at the end of the movie or at the end of something, MJ is also standing on a spot on a rooftop where I guess her and Peter used to go to, and she is holding like that black dahlia necklace that Peter got while they were what was it? Far from home, I believe, where they're in Paris, France, something. He gets the
Yes,
necklace from there.
yeah.
So that theory is very cool. I hope that theory is true because whoever noticed that and came up with that's genius. And I think that would be genius writing. But yeah, those scenes were crazy. The MJ Peter relationship I said earlier, I think they properly explored that relationship in this film. They had great building between one another finally. Another huge hidden treasure for me was the fight scenes. They cranked up Spider-Man's powers in this movie, especially when his arachnid DNA is starting to take over. And boy, was it awesome. They definitely took inspiration from the Spider-Man 1 and 2 games on the PS5 because there are some moves in this movie that are completely ripped from those games. And I noticed right away, and I thought it was super cool. The director for this film was the director for Shang-Chi. And if anybody has watched Shang-Chi, those fight sequences, were just beautiful. The choreography between them was awesome. The way they did the camera work to showcase Shang-Chi and the martial arts style in those movies, or that movie, very cool. They do it here. And they have some cool shots where Spider-Man is fighting people while he's running across the ceiling. They're flipping the camera and everything. You feel like you're on a ride, like the Universal ride or whichever has the Spider-Man. That's what you feel like. And some of the moves that Spider-Man does in here, man, it is awesome. I'm very glad they went that route because in most of his fight scenes in this movie, it's very basic. In Spider-Man, they never properly explored how strong he is and how much he actually holds back when he's fighting people. They kind of, let him off the leash a little bit in this movie, and I was blown away by the fight sequences that we got in here.
Yeah, just to add to that, the camera work they did when he was swinging around the city. I mean, that was like you felt like you were swinging along right with him. And just the way that they did that, when he's diving off the buildings, all of that, it was really cool. That was one of my favorite parts. Is just kind of you were like along for the ride with Spidey as he was going through New York, swinging around or jumping off buildings or what have you. So the camera work, definitely A plus, for sure. Um, one other small one I'm going to throw in. Some people may think it's great. Some other people might have complained about it. I didn't even know she was going to be in the movie, but the little Yelena cameos. I was pleasantly surprised that she was in it and just kind of helping Spider-Man out. Just another friend that Spider-Man could lean on for, when he needed to help and figure out what that basically what that VMAX thing was going, what that was all about. But um, it was cool to see just another character in the MCU and knowing that, hey, Spider-Man's cognizant of what's going on with, what's called the New Avengers and all the new players and such. So kind of cool to see her in a couple different scenes.
That's a good point. That's something I wanted to kind of cover too, is before I go into my last point that I really liked about this film. They did a good job of setting up the future of the MCU with the future installments and getting, Yelena in here, and the chemistry between her and Spider-Man was great. Yelena's great in everything, and the way she is with the way she talks, and Peter's just like not knowing how to handle her because her office is in basically a jacuzzi, it looks like, was really awesome. I liked Marvel has had, I feel like, issues in some of the films, especially these last couple phases where movies haven't been hitting, where it doesn't feel like they focus on the film that they're making and focusing on just creating a good film while adding to the MCU. It feels like they are just focusing on branching out and showing you what the rest of the MCU is going to be. I don't know if that the way I'm saying this is
Hmm.
making any
I
sense.
got you.
But here it feels like they were very focused on making a good film, but adding portions to this to let us know, like, hey, there is going to be something going on, because we know we have Doomsday coming out this year. And I
Mhm.
think they did a good job of not just throwing the cameos in their face like you do. Now, when we get into our shipwreck section, there is some stuff where I do feel like there's a certain character in here that didn't need to be in here, but we'll get into that here shortly. My last point, going back to acting and characters in here, I think Sadie Sink did a fantastic job as Jean Grey. From the movies we've had, they've all been the same. I've enjoyed the performances from others. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the Dark Phoenix when what's her name, the girl from Game of Thrones was in it. Sophie Turner. I did not watch that one. Had a feeling that one wasn't going to be very good. But
You're right on
Sadie
that
Sink
one.
added a lot of layers to Jean. Now she's in the movie for a good bit, but most of the time it felt like it was her just using her powers jumping back and forth between people, and it was a cat and mouse at the beginning of the film. But when we get her in this lab that damage control is using, and this is where her sister is being held and tested on, we get to see her open up emotionally and explore like those dark urges that Jean has sometimes, and she did a great job. I think the scene with her, Aunt May, in Peter's mind was really
Mhm.
good. That was really touching. So I'm very interested to see how, when we eventually get the X-Men, how Jean and Peter's relationship is going to help propel them to get in the X-Men to either go in Doomsday, or I don't know what else is going to happen with the X-Men, but it was a good way. It's a great start, I think, for getting this new X-Men set up. I think Sadie Sink was a great pick for the character Jean. I'm very interested to see where they go with the rest of that because the X-Men is one of my favorite Marvel properties in all of Marvel.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. Did fantastic job, and again, great writing and great acting on young Jean Grey, right? The unstable Jean Grey before, she meets up with Professor Xavier and the X-Men to start harnessing her powers and kind of going down that road. So yeah, A plus for her and the character.
Agreed. All right, so now we are going to get into our shipwrecks of this movie, the things that we were not fans of. Gotta be honest, there's not many. I kind of had to dig deep to find some because I really enjoyed this film, but here lately, like my scores and reviews, all these movies have been so good. I've been having a hard time finding stuff to nitpick. And it's like I got to start getting tougher because I'm just throwing out way too many crazy high scores here lately. So I'll start first. This was probably the biggest drawback for me from this film. I really wanted them to dive deeper into Peter's mutation with this arachnid DNA. I thought we were going to get a little bit more man spider stuff coming forward, and they didn't really do that. They stayed very surface level with it. I can understand why. When you start getting into the man spider stuff, it's nightmare fuel, especially if you're arachnophobic, like yours truly. And if anybody has watched Spider Noir, you know that scene with the man spider. And Spider Noir is nightmare fuel. So for them wanting to sell toys and keep kids interested in Marvel, I'm sure they didn't want to go that route. But that's one of the big ones. I wanted to explore more of this mutation because there's like one scene where they start getting into it, and it's that video playing about the spider's life cycle. And then it just kind of stops out of nowhere. Like his arachnid DNA does take over, he starts to, not be himself, especially in his fight with Scorpion. And then it just kind of drops off. And then he eventually gets to the point where, like, he can control it and manifest that DNA and use it while he's still in his normal state.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was a little surprised that it didn't go that route as well. I want to stick on with the topic of kind of changing into different things. The Hulk. And not necessarily the character being in there, and I thought that was fine. And whether it was Bruce Banner, you saw the Smart Hulk, and you saw, the regular Savage Hulk, right? You got to see three different kind of phases of the character. But the biggest thing, and I know there's a lot of chatter on the internet about it, is when Hulk basically, or told the Hulk that hey, I'm Peter Parker, and it triggered something in Hulk's mind. And that would have been fine, but or again, remember MCU, they didn't really have a whole lot of interaction. And I'm not really sure where that may have happened. Now, it could have happened off screen or whatever, but essentially they briefly see each other or in New York when in an Infinity War when the Maw and the big dude come out, I can't remember his name, and start fighting. And then, maybe during the final battle in Endgame, and then at Tony's funeral. I think those are the only areas that they both were in the same place at the same time. So I don't really know why, hey, I'm Peter Parker would trigger Hulk changing back or, getting soft or whatever. So that was again, not the biggest like, con in the world, but try to nitpick at this movie. That's definitely one of them.
That's a good point. Hulk was my next one. This is the character I felt like that was just kind of thrown in here and you didn't really need him. Sure, he helps with the inhibitor idea, but I don't feel like there could have been any reason like why we couldn't have Dr. Kirk Connors do the same thing because he's kind of a genius too. But yeah, that's a great point. Now that you said it, going back, like there was no interaction between Peter and the Hulk at all in any of the MCU movies. Nothing like on the side, like quick little minute conversation. There is rumors they're supposed to be adding 10 more minutes to Endgame. Maybe we get something with that. But am I going back to watch Endgame again for an extra 10 minutes? No, I'm not. I'll be
I
in too
am.
awkward for that. But yeah, so that's the one thing. And I completely almost forgot that the Hulk was going to fight Spider-Man in his Hulk form because I tried avoiding the trailers as much as I could. So when you heard the banging on the vault that the people at Damage Control were hiding in, I was like, this would be a really cool way to introduce the Rhino, completely forgetting the Hulk was a part of that. So for me to think that it just goes along with the Hulk, I felt like was just more thrown in here for fan service and the fact that Marvel has no clue what to do with the Hulk. There is no plans for him. I don't know. I don't even know what storyline they could potentially chase to try to do anything that to rectify the character. They've just thrown him in a blender, it feels like at this point. And like you said, the Peter scene was cool, seeing through his mask and seeing his eye and everything, but it's like we've had no development between these two other than him talking about his inhibitor. I don't see how that's supposed to help. But seeing Savage Hulk come out and get bigger than we've seen him before, that was really cool. I appreciated that. The fight sequence between them was really cool. The webs cutting into Hulk's skin as he's being dragged down was cool. But again, it's just another scene where the Hulk banner Hulks out for a quick scene, and then afterwards it's, hey, is anybody hurt? And then it's just, okay, rinse and repeat at this point. This is one that's kind of plagued Tom Holland's Spider-Man throughout every movie, and he doesn't really have a villain that is just going after Spider-Man. We so in the first Homecoming, Michael Keaton plays the Vulture, which he was probably one of the best villains Marvel had had up to that point, other than Loki, because Marvel's been very lackluster on villains. But if you go back and watch, Michael Keaton's whole thing in that movie is he was mad at Tony Stark, and Spider-Man just happens to come in and intervene. Now he just also happens to be one of Spider-Man's rogue galleries because spoiler alert for everybody, if you're not into Spider-Man, don't read Spider-Man, haven't watched it. Spider-Man's got the best rogue gallery, if you ask me, in all of Marvel. Maybe besides the X-Men. So we had that. The next one we have Mysterio, who again is like mad at Nick Fury, mad at Tony Stark, and Spider-Man just happens to intervene. We then go to No Way Home, which is cool. We get some nostalgic characters that we all like, especially Green Goblin. But again, that's the villain for Tony's universe. Doc Ock from Toby's universe. We get the Lizard. That's from Andrew Garfield. Sandman, Toby's universe. And so, again, we don't really have a villain for Tom Holland. It's just he happens to be there. He's intervening. In this movie, we finally get a little bit in the montage at the beginning with some of his rogue gallery with Scorpion. By the way, I thought that character did great. I would love to see a full length movie potentially with Scorpion, but I don't think they'll ever do it now. Tombstone's in here for 5 seconds. It was cool to see Tombstone. I was really wondering if Kingpin was going to show up and there's going to be some little like dialogue about, Matt Murdock or something. I actually was thinking that the prison fight scene with the hand at the end of this movie, I thought Matt Murdock was going to be somewhere in that prison or something. Thought that would have been cool. But it's just Tom Holland doesn't have a villain that feels like it's his villain. He's always there to help intervene. And the only villains he's truly had is like Thanos. And again, that's somebody else who's pissed off at Tony Stark.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that. That's great. Yeah, and I know people have been banging the table for a Sinister Six kind of like thing. Who knows? Maybe down the road here, but yeah, just the thing that you mentioned about Tombstone. I know we saw some of the other characters. I actually had to look them up because if you blink, you would miss it. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
even remember
Tarantula and the
seeing.
Boomerang guy.
Yeah, I didn't even see Boomerang. I must have like looked away or drank took a slip out of my soda or
It's
something
so
because
it's this scene where he's got the webs going around him and he's looking up at the camera and going up. He like it's a
yeah.
crazy shot because Spider-Man's above Boomerang and then you'll see Boomerang's off in the distance and he's like right underneath him, but he's kind of blocked out by Spider-Man.
Yeah, like my thing was I wish we just got a little bit more of all of it, right? I mean, just extend even just for 30 seconds or a minute, showing them fight each one rather than, oh, here, there. It's like, oh my gosh, like it was so quick. I think I looked online and said Tombstone had the longest cameo of 10 seconds out of the four characters. So it's like, I mean, you just give him like 2 to 3 minutes of all four of them, and then that would have just been awesome just to see. And again, I think we could have gotten a couple additional great fight sequences that you brought up earlier with these different characters, rather than just blink, 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 done, okay, and move on. So, yeah, that was actually one on my list for one of the shipwrecked items.
And then my last one that I have is this is more of a nitpick at this point. I would like to know why or how Peter was able to block Jean from getting in his head. Now, was it his arachnid DNA or something? I don't know. They don't really explore this. It's just, hey, this is plot armor. Spider-Man can block Jean Grey, one of the most powerful mutants we know at this point, from getting in his head. And you just got to accept it. And Aunt May will come here and save the day later on. So I didn't really like that. I wish they would have explored that a little bit because it would have been very interesting. This is where I thought the Man Spider was going to take over. And maybe they were going to go into something like she can't get into his head because he's not a human at this point. The spider's taking over. He's more of a beast at this point, so there's nothing going on up there. So I thought that would have been cool, and they never explored it.
Yeah, and real quick, my last one, real quick. Speaking of Jean, I, I didn't, and this is probably me just being a fan of growing up with the X-Men and watching the cartoon and everything. I thought the Jean sister thing was a little weird. Like, I knew that Jean needed a trigger, right? She needed a trigger to be so pissed off and do all these things that she was doing. But I didn't even know she had a sister until I had to look it up after I saw the movie. Like, I was like, where I'm accustomed to the story where, she was growing up, her friend got like hit by a car or something, and that's when Professor Xavier, found her and brought her to the school, and the rest is history. But this is a different kind of storyline. There might be a comic storyline I'm not aware of. I don't know the comics very well, but maybe it is a plot line that they investigated and wanted to do. But I don't know. Again, nitpicking, it was fine, but it just me as an X-Men fan, I'm like, you know, where this kind of came out of left field.
Right. And I actually have one more con. Well, shipwreck, and it's a nitpick at this point because this movie was long and we sat through the end credits. He get the weakest end credit scene Marvel has given us to date.
So that's interesting. I didn't know where to slot that one. Actually, on my notes here, I put it by itself because I see it from both ends. I agree with you the fact that there's not much there. But on the flip side, if you want to look at it, it's like, okay, it kind of opens it up for speculation. What does this mean, right? A lot of people pointing to Secret Wars, which is, after Doomsday, the next big Avengers film, and quite possibly so. That's what it means. Is this a another multiverse thing? Maybe a sign that here comes Spider-Gwen or Miles Morales or another variation of Spider-Man? Is this something to do with Doomsday? Because again, we have not any confirmation that Spider-Man is going to be part of that or not. Probably a dark horse, like something about Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is coming out next year, but that's probably unlikely. But there's a lot you could go with a lot of different ways. I think that kind of makes it exciting for us as fans. It's not just, oh, this is going to happen. Your brain starts working like, okay, what does this really mean? So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I do wish there was a little bit more personally to the after credit scene than just the tracker going
Right.
off.
Was I didn't think about the point you were talking about, like open to interpretation. I actually wish they would have scrapped this end credit scene and just made it like hinting towards the X-Men or something. I was kind of hoping we'd get like Sadie Sink is on the bus. Maybe she's pulling up it to, Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted or something like that. That's what I was hoping for. And then just me nitpicking at this point, it's like the tracker thing doesn't make sense. How can anybody use that tracker in space? Ned's not that smart.
Yeah,
So, but
that's
yeah,
that's true.
that's just a little nitpick. It's not worth sitting the extra 5-10 minutes in the credits to see it. You can just go on TikTok, somebody will have it up there. So, other than that, though, going into our ratings, I loved the film. Like I said at the beginning of this video, 2026. It's been a great year for movies, and I've said this in my past few videos. This has probably been one of my favorite years for movies I can think of in like a long time, and this might be up there with one of the all-time great years for movies just coming now. Like, think about what we've had. We've had Project Hail Mary. We've had Obsession. We've had The Odyssey. We've had movies like The Backrooms. Like the horror movie genre has been great. Now got Spider-Man Brand New Day. We still have Doomsday and Dune in December on the same weekend. This is insane. So going into my rating, oh, I was talking to my buddies because my buddies have been ragging on me. They're like, dude, you're just throwing tens out willy-nilly now this year. What's going on? So I was like, I know, but like the movies have been so good in the last few I've seen, I can't think of anything to pull down the score. This one's not going to be a 10. I do think some of the stuff that I've had in here, especially like the lack of explanation with the mutation and diving deeper, does take it down a little bit for me. However, this movie is close to a 10. We're in the 9 territories. I'm going to go think I'm gonna go 9.5 out of 10 for my score for Spider-Man Brand New Day. What you got for me, Radio?
We're sharing a brain here. I went with my stepson and yes on Sunday yesterday, and we were talking about it on the run home, and he asked me that question. I said, I can't give it a 10 because I'm the type of person 10 has got to be perfect. It's got to be the perfect movie. And I put if I had to grade a MCU movie at 10, it'd probably be Infinity War or Endgame, right? Maybe Winter Soldier because I love that movie. But um I'm gonna go 9.5 as well. It's just it's one of the best Marvel movies that's come out in a long time. Arguably is the best since Endgame. It just had so many good things working for it. We obviously laid out a ton of it earlier. And I think something else that helped it out just in general, because you see it's like breaking records and it's making all this money. You got to remember, this is the first MCU film we've seen in a year,
Hmm.
which is crazy. Like Fantastic Four, the first steps was the last MCU movie, unless I'm missing something here, was the that came out. So we've had to wait a full calendar year to go into theater and enjoy a Marvel movie. And I think and that's what people were talking about, right? They were getting sick of this oversaturation. You've mentioned it before. So they reeled it back a little bit, and now we were itching to get into the theater. Of course, it's with the character that everybody loves, with Spider-Man. And it backed it up. The story, the characters, everything backed it up. So yeah, 9.5. Just I think I had a couple tiny misses, but again, one of the best ones to date.
So for me, I said earlier, I still think Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 is my favorite. I think it's still the best film. I probably put this one right behind it. I've seen a lot of debates. Is this one better than Endgame? I've seen a lot of people like Endgame, or I'm sorry, not Endgame. No Way Home. They've liked No Way Home better. But I think a lot of people say that is because the nostalgia really worked in that movie. And that was like a once in a lifetime thing. So I understand. I do think the fight sequences in there's a little bit more in that movie. There's not as much in this movie. But going back and looking, I think the fights in this movie are better than No Way Home. The character development is one of the best we've had in any of the Spider-Man movies besides Spider-Man 2. It's pretty much on par with that for me. I mean, they both kind of do the same thing. Explore Peter having something going wonky with his powers, being upset. One is upset because, doesn't want to be Spider-Man, wants to become a normal person, wants to, try to go and build a relationship with Mary Jane. This one has to deal with the theme of isolation and your mental health. And they did a great job exploring that. And you would think it'd be like just a PG-13 kids movie. It's not. There's some adult themes in here that stick. So yeah, this one for me is probably the second best Spider-Man film behind Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, it's probably the best one for me, and it's got a little of everything like you're mentioning. So, um, I, you know, if anybody else said, like you said, the Spider-Man 2 or any of Tom Holland's original ones, like whatever, like I'm not going to argue with you. I get it. But just for me personally, this took me the number one spot.
Yeah, and what a great problem to have. It's so nice
Yeah.
to talk about a film that's great and not the misses that Marvel's had the past few years. So maybe the tweaks to the equation now are starting to work. We're starting to come back. It really, I think, is predicated on how Doomsday is. I think because of all the changes we've had to do from the Jonathan Majors King misses and then all the legal stuff that went on with that, and just the movies we were getting, like what, the Internals. Uh, Anyways, we don't have to get into that, but I think they took a step back. They realized that they were starting to focus on quantity over quality, and when you do that, you can. I mean, us as a viewer see it right away. It's just nothing sticking. We are not, being drawn to the characters. We don't have a relationship like we did with everything we did Marvel previously. So hopefully they found the trick. Hoping Doomsday is going to be good because this and Fantastic Four they have been awesome. And hopefully Marvel continues with the success that these animated shows are doing, folks, because I'm letting you know, me and Radio, we're going to be breaking down X-Men 97 Season 2. That might be the best Marvel content we've had in years. That's including live action, everything. Every episode, even the filler episodes, have been a hit for me. So that's your little snippet of what we're going to be getting into once the season 2 of X-Men finishes. And I hate waiting weekly for these
Uh,
episodes. I want to binge them so bad.
So it's like you're a kid again, and you gotta wait till the next episode, and you get that little. Actually, we don't even get a preview now. It's just,
Which I'm fine with. I don't
yeah.
need a preview. Don't
I
spoil nothing. I
I
just want to go in. Yeah, instead of having my milk and cereal, now I'm 30 plus years old, and now I'm with my beer and nachos, waiting to watch a cartoon.
I watch it the minute I wake up on Wednesday mornings. I pop open my iPad and just start watching. I cannot go through the day without watching the new episode, so I make sure I wake up a little bit early, set my alarm just about 30 minutes early, and
I get
just
to
start
watch it when I
watching.
come home from work, and then when I realize the episode's out, because I forget what days they put the new episode on. So I always go on like TikTok or something. People are talking about. I'm like, yes, new episodes out. I can't wait to get home. Like, buddy's calling me. Hey, are we gonna do extra workout in the gym? Like, now we're gonna have to cut this early. I'm going home. So, yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you again, Radio, for coming on.
Thank you
Radio
for
will be
having me.
here. Any Marvel reviews he wants to do, he's welcome onto the Cove. Appreciate having you. And everybody, if you like this content, leave a like, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. Come on down to the Cove because the water is fine.